Welcome back to the channel. It's Saturday evening. It's time to talk about the very best comic books of the week, but we're also going to talk about something else because I had nowhere else to put it. And with me, it always is Drew from Comics Lead. How you doing, Drew?
I'm doing all right, Wes. Yeah, the weather here in Indy's been very loopy, topsy-turvy all over the place. My sinuses are wreaking havoc on my head right now, but I have mustered enough strength to talk about the very best comics of the week, including The Punisher. We'll see what happens.
The Punisher was not one of the best comic books of the week, but we got Punisher #1, David Pepose, this week, introducing Joe Garrison as the new Punisher. And I'm so confused by this comic book. We talked about it a little bit at the end on Aficionados today. But what was the point? Was Frank Castle the problem? Because they basically replaced him with a character with a new name, but the exact same origin and still the Punisher logo.
Correct. He still has the exact same logo. You have a character whose family was completely murdered, and he's using guns to kill people. He has the same logo, but now, except this time, his symbol lights up. So he lets people know when he's coming, which is very clever, which is what you want to do when you're a one-man person against a whole army of people and you're trying to sneak up on them. Effectively, there is no change in this character except for the character Frank Castle. What we're led to believe is that Frank Castle was the problem. And if you go back and read the Jason Aaron mess, which I highly encourage you don't, Jason Aaron was establishing that Frank Castle was the problem. Frank Castle was the bad guy in evil, and which was a completely wrong approach. But effectively, there's no change in this, just that Frank Castle was a problem.
I still don't understand what the point is. It's not like this character is going to sell better than Frank Castle. Frank Castle was established. They just changed it because they needed to change it, but they replaced it with the exact same thing. And I'm going, okay, Marvel Comics, that's real smart.
People are going to make the argument like, oh, it's just the first issue. Give it time with the character. But like when you read this character, this Joe Garrison, I get nothing from him. He's just bland, generic. He's like white rice. He is steamed white rice and is bland. This story is bland. This whole issue is bland. There's nothing special about it. I don't understand why Marvel thought, yeah, everyone's going to be on board with this. They're going to want to spend $4, $5, $6, $7 if you got the ratios, maybe $25 on this comic. No, there's nothing special here. There's nothing cool about it. There's nothing to really get you excited here. It's just bland white rice.
Drew cannot tell me what was the point of Punisher #1. If you're out there and you read it and you came up with a point for this issue, please let me know in the comment section because I'm still baffled. Now let's talk about the best comic books, and we're going to start out with the indies first. We'll recommend Transformers #2, Danny Warren Johnson writing and illustrating this one. Not quite as exciting as the very first issue. Specifically, the first 6 pages of this comic book really threw me off. Basically, Optimus Prime kills Bambi's mom, which I thought was an odd move. I understand why they did it. I don't think it really worked out here. But once the Decepticons finally came back, this comic book absolutely moved into the area that I wanted it to, and it was a lot of fun again.
Yeah, and I talked about this. I've talked about this with our friend Max, as well as Kyle, not Kevin. That it's hard to maintain that adrenaline, that high level of excitement, and sometimes you kind of need to dip it down a little bit, bring it back down, so you can establish things, establish the story, the tone, and that's what issue 2 is kind of doing. It's really establishing with the Autobots how they view life as fragile. They see, mainly through Optimus Prime, just how fragile life is outside of Cybertron. How they are not, these people, this land, it's not metal. They're not clunky, just they are very delicate. And we see that juxtaposed toward the end with the Decepticons, with Starscream, how they do not care at all about human life. They have fun, as a matter of fact, destroying human life. They enjoy it. And I do like that. And yeah, I do kind of agree that it's kind of clunky with the deer at the very beginning. It's very heavy-handed. It's supposed to establish, it's like, oh no, it's sad. But I think it's more important that we see the differences in the approaching of life with the Autobots and Decepticons.
Definitely could have been done better, but it was cool seeing the first real appearance of a Joe in the Energon universe.
Yes, it was. I wasn't sure if we want to talk about that or not, but yeah, it was very exciting, and that was in a very exciting scene with Starscream and a fighter jet, and I loved that scene. It's terrific. Yeah, I can't wait to read G.I. Joe #1. That should be exciting. Hopefully, maybe there's a little tease about what happened in this issue in G.I. Joe #1. But toward the latter half of this book, it's so exciting. It's adrenaline filled, and it's still a really damn good comic. But it doesn't have that much excitement as issue 1 did. But it's still really, really good. Do check out Transformers #2.
Yeah, just skip the first 6 pages and you'll be better off. They're just weird.
Yeah.
Now, another comic book we're going to recommend from Image Comics, the Enfield Gang Massacre #4, Chris Connon, Jacob Phillips. And we're getting toward the end game here. And it looked like in the last issue that perhaps there was a chance the Enfield Gang were going to get away from this posse that were after them. And we had the sheriff investigating, maybe finding out that maybe everything wasn't as it appeared. And he might absolve the Enfield Gang of everything that happened. But they're not going to get out alive, apparently, because this is a bloody issue. And Jacob Phillips, God bless you, sir. That illustration with the minigun was absolutely amazing. And this thing holds no punches.
Yeah, I love it. You know, it's great seeing books like this from Image, that Image still can tell some pretty cool, bloody, violent, action-filled comics, you know, because a lot of times you don't really get that, especially the last few years, but it's great seeing books like this, and it gets me adrenaline-filled and makes me really want to go back actually and rewatch some old, cool spaghetti westerns from the 70s and 80s. I want to go back and watch The Wild Bunch after reading this, because I see like a lot of kind of influence from that film in this, as well as other great westerns. But yeah, I do like the seeing the now ex. Well, he's kind of like an ex-sheriff because he got rid of his badge in the prior issue. So he's doing the investigation. You know, it's seeing like things may not be on the level here, and there may be something that we don't know. And I do enjoy the mystery aspect of this, him doing the investigating. This is just a fun comic. It's a fun western. Westerns are a great genre that I think we need to see more of. And I really do encourage everyone to check out the Enfield Gang Massacre. I think really this is a hidden gem. Really, I don't know if many stores are ordering this, and I think this is one of those books that really people need to be talking more about, because this is where something special really is. It's really kind of hidden, and people do need to read it.
Absolutely, and those are our indie comic books of the week. It's not a great week for comic books, but it's mostly really bad for Marvel. They didn't deliver a single thing that I think is really worth buying. I think maybe the best book this week was either Uncanny Spider-Man or Gods, neither of which I thought were all that great. Bad issue of Spider-Man. Punisher 1 was bad. Thanos #1 was worse. I'm going to review that with Doc on Monday. And Marvel just sucked.
Yes, it was a very terrible week with Marvel. I'm very glad that you said that, because we don't talk about the books typically beforehand. I was going to hate to break it to you, like I can't recommend anything from Marvel. I couldn't. Oh. And when it comes to Gods and Jonathan Hickman, I'll say this again: this series is boring. These characters are boring. The story is boring. What I'm gathering from this, it's if you want to read a more boring, bland version of the Magic Order, you got Gods. There you go. And I don't want to read that. I'd rather read a story that's action-packed with magic from Mark Millar, which is actually very much fun, and I can't wait to read the next issue. This one, they're just bland, generic characters. I get nothing from them at all.
Yeah, you got nothing from Marvel this week. It absolutely sucked. And we get the rare feat for DC Comics. We're going to recommend more DC than any other publisher out there, and then the entire indie scene and Marvel put together. First up, we're going to recommend Shazam #5, Mark Waid, Dan Mora. If you want a fun comic book, I don't think you're going to find a more fun comic book than Shazam #5. You feel that Silver Age silliness coming off the page here. We got Mary Marvel showing up to help save the captain, and then he's got a new driver. It's no longer Zeus taking over. It's actually going to be Mercury. He keeps changing his personality. These new gods are kind of taking him over. Finally figured out the jig is up. We do get a lot of really fun stuff, but I guess the main event is the thing that happens at the end. The final page reveal is absolutely insane after Billy Batson goes and tells the gods, no more. I'm not going to be your vessel anymore because you guys keep dicking me over. And we get a little betrayal at the end. I was very shocked.
It was a what? I can't wait to read the next issue now after what happened on the last page. But yeah, this, like you said, fun is the word that defines this book. And I never really know what to expect from reading Shazam, except knowing that I'm going to have a good time reading this, because it's so random, it's so cool, so fun. You got everything from fighting monkeys to talking dinosaurs to going to the moon. You got gods trying to take control of the captain. I love it. What's not to love about that? You never know what to expect. It's not boring. And the most egregious sin you can commit is having a boring comic, and it's never boring. This comic was action packed. And Dan Mora, we can't talk.
This is the best illustrated thing he's done this year.
Absolutely. I mean, he needs to be getting more work. I hate to say this. He needs to be doing more work. He's
doing 2 ongoings. You can't do any more of that as an artist.
He was doing 3 at one point. He was doing the Power Rangers and TMNT on top of this, as well as world's finest. I think he can do more, and we need him on more. Please, Dan, we need you on more. We need you. His work in this is beautiful. It's just how he draws the action, the monsters, the emotions. It is what you want in a comic book. Mark Waid and Dan Mora are a dream team right now. You guys do need to check out Shazam.
Yeah, that one's turned out to be a pretty damn good series, especially if you like Silver Age DC. The next book we're going to recommend, Superman 78, The Metal Curtain #1, Robert Venditti, Gavin Guidry on art. The first Superman 78 I thought was basically perfect across the board. I don't think he could have done it any better. Set the bar exceptionally high for the second volume of this. It does not quite reach those heights of absolute perfection, in my opinion. The art isn't quite as good, although when we do get dialogue between Clark Kent and Lois Lane, it once again takes you right into the movie, and Christopher Reeves and Margot Kidder talking to each other and whatnot. But they are trying to establish a new villain here that we haven't seen in the movies. And it's still a very, very good effort. I definitely recommend it. Not quite as good as the original Superman 78, but definitely a lot of fun.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, the original Superman 78 I thought was the best Superman work all of last year. And Robert Venditti, he gets the characters' voices perfectly. And yeah, this issue, it was good. The first series was a grand slam. This one was probably an inside the park home run, maybe a triple. It's good, not great. So we don't get enough Superman in this issue, which is kind of like my complaint. Superman showed up on a couple pages, but that was it. But he does do Superman things. He does do true Superman heroic acts, which is terrific. But yeah, the dialogue between Lois and Clark and Jimmy and Perry White, I loved it. It's perfect. It takes you right back to the film, like you said. My one concern about this series is that, one, DC is not advertising it enough, if at all, which is a true crime. Two is that people younger than us won't be inclined to pick this up because, oh, you mean it's tied to that old movie? Yes, the movie is amazing. One of the greatest superhero films ever made. In my opinion, the best. Guys do need to check this out. If you're on the younger side, you are going to enjoy Superman 78, the second volume. And I do love what they're doing here with this a Superman villain from the lore, with how it ties to the communism. To the communist side. It's great stuff. I do like the mystery they're building here. This is a fun series. Robert Venditti is one of the best writers right now and not getting enough work, in my opinion.
Couldn't agree with you more on that one. Now let's get to our final DC comic recommendation. And this one's solely on you. I actually haven't been reading Poison Ivy, but you're all about Poison Ivy 16, G. Willow Wilson, Marcio Takara. I don't even know what to make of this one. I didn't even get a chance to have a sample of it.
If anyone watching this, if they watch our best of the week, they wouldn't probably remember that I did recommend those first 6 issues or so of Poison Ivy because the series was fantastic by G. Willow Wilson. She turned it was a horror series with Poison Ivy, with who had pretty much, no pity or care for the human race, was eliminating the human race, as a matter of fact, with the world's deadliest chain letter. And it was fantastic. It was this poison virus slowly killing people. But then after that, it turned into a shipping fantasy, more or less, with Ivy and Harley, which was like, I'm not on board with this. This is not what I came here for. And so for the last 6 issues, it's been boring crap. And then this goes back to those first 6 issues, and she's totally redeemed herself, as someone famously said in Dumb and Dumber. And I'm back on board. It's back to that horror story with Poison Ivy wanting to eliminate the human race with this virus. And you see it affecting people, how it's warping their mind, they're hallucinating. And Poison Ivy's back to that, like, I don't give a shit about the human race. I love it. It's perfect. That's how it should be. And if you want to read a truly great horror story with supervillains, this is it. And with a virus, that it kind of like The Stand that Stephen King wrote, this is fantastic. You are going to enjoy this. This is Poison Ivy back to its roots, pun intended. Do check this out.
Very nice there. And like I said, this wasn't a great week. Last week wasn't a good week. It looks like DC and Marvel decided to just beef up next week with everything happening at one time. So we should have a lot more recommendations next week. Also, we get Big Game number 5, the final issue of that one. We'll definitely be talking about that. I'm actually going to do a full recap with Jim on the channel before we even talk about it. So that should be a lot of fun. So that is the week this week as far as good comic books. But you got more than that just going on here, Drew. Congratulations. Unholy Nightmare, number 1 on Kickstarter, fully funded. Link in the video description if you haven't backed the project yet. Congratulations on all the success, brother.
Thank you, Wes. I appreciate it. Yes, and thank you to everyone who's backed it. I really, truly appreciate it. Aurelio and I, we from the bottom of our hearts, we thank you. But still, I mean, we're happy. We're going to finish the book, but we want to finish issue 2 now. One of the stretch goals is 9K. We want to finish issue 2. Aaron Sparrow, editor extraordinaire, has agreed to come on board and help us finish the story and help us tell a great story. And on top of that, if we haven't sold you yet, we are putting up more original art for free. If you back the book this week, right now, you're going to be eligible to win 2 more pieces of art at the end of the campaign. We're going to be raffling off all the original art. See who the winners are going to be. All you got to do is back the book, and you're entered to win a free piece of original art, one from Aurelio and one from me, from one of my earliest comics I wrote that was published. I don't know. It's a win-win. Honestly, you're backing a great comic, and you're going to win. You can win a free original piece of art.
Well, it don't get much better than that. It certainly doesn't get much better than Wes and Drew talking about the very best comic books of the week right here on the channel. And if we're at the end and you're like, God damn it, Wes, I needed some more of this great thinking critical comic book content. Well, it just so happens I made a lot of videos and you probably watched some stuff. And YouTube has run the algorithm and decided this is the video, the greatest video I ever created in the history of my life on my channel directly for you. Definitely check it out right now.